Hello, welcome to Crime Bytes, the show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Eliza, and today is True Crime Tuesday. So happy July. I'm having quite the week. Squid Game Season 3, anyone? But between that, dog sitting, house sitting, and my car breaking down for like the fourth time this summer, I'm praying it's just the battery, but I won't find out until tomorrow. But all this to say, I'm filming at a studio today. But this isn't that bad, is it? I kind of like the fireplace vibe. I might need to do something like this. And my little friend here is Dasha. She's my sister's Siberian Husky. And she's not sure if she would like to be a detective or not. She's thinking not. She's more of a friendly girl. She is quite the little hunter, though. Watch out, little backyard animals. Anyways, I've got another case for you today that is really going to set off those anger fireworks right in your head or something like that. Let me tell you, the anger sharks have been swimming in my head and the land sharks have been roving in the yard. You know? But before we get into it, let's pause for a quick promotion. And are you ready for your 4th of July fireworks? I'm not sure. I signed up to be this huge dancing eagle in our 4th of July parade, so I hope it's not too hot. But how's your smile doing? And if you aren't feeling as confident about the color of your teeth going into summer, I might have the perfect solution for you, and that is snow. Snow got my teeth like 3 shades whiter in just 1 week, so even if you've been putting it off, it's fast. And if you're low on change, I've got a 15% off coupon linked right for you in the description. So get smiling wide and bright this summer in literally less than a week. Check my description for details, and let's get to today's case. And today's case isn't going to give you really anything to smile about. I'm sorry. We're going to start by meeting Crystal Sorey. Crystal was working to get her life together, and she had a bit of a checkered past, but she was working to try and move things in the right direction. So she had 2 children, Harmony and Jameson, and neither of them were in her custody due to a very long battle with addiction. Her son had already been adopted by his foster family, and he was doing well, but her daughter was in the custody of her father. So Crystal was planning to start there and to move to at least get some visitation. But her ex, Adam Montgomery, was not being very receptive. In fact, Crystal had not even spoken to her daughter since a FaceTime on Easter of 2019, and that was around 2 years ago. And since Adam didn't seem willing to put her daughter even on the phone with her, she was going to need some help. So towards the end of 2021, Crystal would ask for some help with the situation, and they listened to her concerns. Because Adam was living in New Hampshire at that point, they had to get New Hampshire involved, and they would go to talk to Adam. They would find him living in his car with his new wife, Kayla, and their 2 children. And when they came back to Crystal, she was in no way prepared for what they were about to tell her, because Adam would tell them that around Halloween in 2019, he had brought little Harmony back to Crystal, and that's where she was. And I'm sure time must have stopped right there for poor Crystal. Like, you've got to be kidding me. No, I haven't seen her in years, but the most important question was obviously if she wasn't with Adam or Crystal, where was she? So on December 31st of 2021, after this encounter with Adam, a missing persons report was put out to try and locate Harmony. So before we talk about where Harmony was, let's go over some more of the details about these people. So Harmony Montgomery was born on June 7th, 2014 in Haverhill, Massachusetts. Crystal was 24 when she was born, and Adam was 25 and in prison. He had a bit of a past as well, with charges such as assault, firearms, and robbery. He wasn't really someone who was known for his kindness. Crystal was in the midst of an active addiction as well when Harmony was born. And possibly as a result of that, Harmony was born with some health complications. Specifically, she was diagnosed with hyposencephaly, which is a brain defect that occurs during the first few weeks of pregnancy. The two sides of the brain do not separate properly, and in many cases, the individual will not survive their first few months of life. Harmony's doctors gave her less than a year. They also told Crystal that she was blind in both eyes. Because she was still actively using drugs, Massachusetts Department of Children and Families, or DCF, would be involved from the beginning, and they did give her a chance to stop using, but they don't usually mess around with that stuff, and they ended up placing Harmony in foster care in August of 2014 when she was just 2 months old. She would be placed with the Rafferty family, and shortly after she got there, her foster mother noticed that she was following her food in a spoon with one of her eyes. This caused her doctors to revise their diagnosis, and Harmony was diagnosed with septo-optic dysplasia, or SOD, which is basically an underdevelopment of the optic nerves. So a way better diagnosis than she had previously, and most importantly, she was expected to live with this diagnosis, so things were looking up for Harmony. Now, initially, the goal was to reunify Harmony with her mother, but that required Crystal to get clean. In the meantime, Harmony still had a father, even if he was in prison. So DCF would attempt to reach out to him, and they were successful in December of 2014, and in January of 2015, Adam would meet his little girl for the first time in a prison visitation room. After almost a year had passed, so in July of 2015, the situation was reevaluated, and because Crystal was still using, they decided to look for a family to adopt Harmony. In September of 2015, Adam would be released from prison, and he would relocate to New Hampshire, where he would meet Kayla Rivera. They would end up getting married and have 3 more children together, but for the time being, he wasn't all that concerned about Harmony, and she stayed in her loving home with the Raffertys until October of 2016, when Adam decided to express interest in Harmony again. And I'm gonna cut right to the chase and say Adam and Kayla were drug addicts living on state benefits and had just had their first child. Why do you think they wanted to add another child to the mix? Love? Because he was the father, he was allowed to be considered though. So from October 2016 until February of 2017, Adam would visit Harmony about once a month. And that February, everything would change because Crystal would move, and when she did, the DCF office handling Harmony's case moved with her. And when they reevaluated her current circumstances, they did see that she was cleaning up, visiting Harmony regularly, and they went and moved to change Harmony's status back to reunification with her mother. Keep in mind, she had not lived with either parent since she was 2 months old, and she was doing well in foster care. But things were looking better for Crystal, and in March of 2017, Harmony was returned to her. So she's almost 3 at this point. Unfortunately, by January of 2018, reports of neglect were coming into DCF. It appeared that Crystal may have relapsed, and because of this, they pulled little Harmony again, put her back with the Raffertys. They were frustrated because they were doing the best they could with Harmony, but all this back and forth and up and down was stressful for them. Imagine how stressful it was to this poor little girl. She was only 3.5 at this point, and they were frustrated because she came back with more behavioral issues. So after 3 more months there, they decided it was best, with reunification being the goal, to return Harmony to DCF, which I get it. You're telling them how things are affecting this little girl, and they carry on and expect you to deal with all of the repercussions. Can't be easy at all. So It was just too much for the Raffertys. And in June of that year, they would have another annual review and decided to keep the goal as reunification because Crystal at this point was still following up with her visits, her programs, doing everything that they were telling her to do. And that's the thing, at least in Massachusetts. If you meet their requirements, you're, for the most part, good. You might not be good, but you're good, which that can be good and also extremely bad. Crystal was doing what they were telling her to do, though, and Adam for now was out of the picture, but then he came right back into the picture that August when he was resume his supervised visits with Harmony. And by that October, he would go ahead and submit a review and redetermination hearing request. So they would schedule this hearing to be heard along Crystal's, which was scheduled for February of 2019. In preparation for this hearing, Massachusetts requested New Hampshire's Department of Children, Youth and Families, or DCYF, to conduct a wellness check on Adam's home to make sure it was fit for Harmony. Because it was between states, it was a special report, which is called an Interstate Compact Place of Children, or ICPC. These usually take months to complete, but this was supposed to be expedited because the hearing was in 2 months. At the same time, DCF was all over the place deciding what the goal would be for Harmony. They decided at that time Crystal was unfit, but Adam was complying with all of their requests. But before the hearing, they changed the goal back from reunification to either parent to adoption. Crystal would end up missing this hearing in February, but it really was because of a technicality. They had her double booked in court for her son's permanency hearing as well, and she ended up attending her son's hearing, which this should have never happened, but it did, and it didn't get sorted out, and her son would end up being adopted by his current foster family. In Harmony's case, Adam and his lawyers were there, along with a lawyer for Harmony and a lawyer for Crystal, and Massachusetts DCF. And Massachusetts DCF was the only party that opposed Adam having custody of Harmony on the grounds of him being unfit. He had a criminal history and at this point a very poor track record with his daughter. They also requested that the decision be held until the ICPC report was produced because although it was expedited, it had not been completed yet. So they had to either wait or make the decision without that home visit. But because Harmony's lawyer presented that Harmony said she wanted to live with her dad at 4 years old, and Crystal, although she wanted custody of Harmony herself, her lawyer didn't oppose Adam having custody. So with DCF being the only voice of reason in the courtroom, the judge went ahead and decided to go with the other 3 louder voices. And that day he awarded full custody of Harmony Montgomery to her father, Adam Montgomery, without his home even being visited. And ordered Mass DCF to close her case, which literally sealed her fate. So a week after the hearing, 4-year-old Harmony would be uprooted yet again, this time to Manchester, New Hampshire. Adam was living at the time in a small 3-bedroom house with his wife Kayla and their 2 boys at this point, and Adam's uncle Kevin. The house belonged to his grandmother, who had just moved to Florida the month prior. Crystal would do FaceTimes when she could with Harmony, and the last one that she would have was on Easter of 2019. In June of 2019, Adam's uncle would move out, and when he did, he made an anonymous report to DCYF. He told them a couple of very concerning things. For starters, the house didn't have electricity. And secondly, he let them know that Adam and Kayla were actively using drugs. So the police and DCYF would come, and because they were using a generator to power the essentials, it was considered acceptable, so noted. But this uncle would come back that July, and when he did, Harmony had this huge black eye, and when he asked Adam about it, he would admit that he had bashed her around the house. apparently he was having Harmony, a 5-year-old child, watch his son for him, and he walked in the room to see her holding her hand over her brother's mouth so that he wouldn't cry and upset their father. So he just beat her, which is just so terrible. Can you even imagine? But get this, when he does the right thing and reports this to DCYF, so this is his second attempt to get help for Harmony. They do send someone over, and this visit would occur on July 29th. The social worker would report that the house was messy and smelled like dogs, but was otherwise safe. Keep in mind that this time it's a report on abuse, and on this first visit he doesn't speak to Harmony. Kayla and Adam would just kind of brush off Kevin's concerns about their situation and say that they were just in a family fight with his uncle. He would come back and see Harmony on August 7th, the social worker, and the bruise that she had was still there, and she would tell them the same story that Adam told them the week before when he came out, that she was playing sword fight with her little brother and he got her in the eye by accident. So for the time being, Harmony was left there, and at the same time the house that they were living in sold and they ended up being evicted. And they would kind of dig their heels in until November 27th when they would begin living out of their car. They would sort of camp in a housing project where their drug dealer lived with their 3 children in the back seat of their 4-door sedan. Harmony would start having accidents in her car seat because she was afraid, and this would really get Adam upset, and that's an understatement because he would beat Harmony when she would do this. So that's what leads us to December 7th, or approximately December 7th, I should say, when around 2 a.m. Harmony would soil herself again, and Adam would smell it and just punch her in the face repetitively. His wife, Kayla, would say about 15 times or so, and they would all just go back to bed and leave her in her dirty clothes. This poor little girl. So you're beating her for doing something that's already embarrassing and not telling you, and you expect her to tell you next time? In what world would, and in what world did this man ever get custody of this little girl in the first place? So later that day, she would have another accident, and this would unfortunately be fatal for her because when he smelled it, he started beating her again. And Kayla would say this time was more intense. She would even try and stop him, like, enough at one point, but she would describe his eyes as just crazy, something she never saw before, and she was terrified. And he would be driving and just stop at whatever red light he would get to and just lean back and keep assaulting his daughter, smashing her little head with a closed fist. And the last time he did, he would turn to Kayla and just say, "I think I really hurt her this time. I think I did something this time." So with Harmony moaning in the back seat, and Kayla was used to Harmony getting beat by her father, she said this time it was different. And that was because this time Adam had beaten her so badly that she was dying. But instead of just taking her to a hospital, they covered her up with a blanket and went to Burger King. Adam, Kayla, and the 2 boys would get Burger King and carry on with their day. And by carry on with their day, I mean go get some heroin and fentanyl and party in the car with it. But yeah, later that day while they were driving, the car would break down, and at this point they were kind of bundling up the kids because it was December and getting cold up in New Hampshire, and at this point when they got to Harmony, they discovered she was dead. Let's listen to Kayla describe some of this in her own words.
Yes.
I want to turn your attention to December 7th of 2019.
Yeah.
Does that day stand out to you?
Yes.
Why?
This is the day that Harmony passed away.
The day that Harmony passed away?
Yeah.
Were you still living in the car at that point?
Yes.
Were you still sleeping in the Colonial Village parking lot?
Yes.
You mentioned Harmony having accidents and then becoming more frequent at that point. On December 7th, was she still having those accidents?
Yes.
And had they increased in frequency?
Yes.
Did Harmony have an accident first thing in the morning?
Yes.
And that would have been before you started your day?
Yes.
What happened when she had that accident?
Adam repetitively kept punching her in the head.
Okay. So I want to break that up. That morning, where did you wake up?
At Colonial Village.
And what happened first thing in the morning that morning?
We went to the methadone clinic.
And before you left for the methadone clinic, did Harmony have an accident?
Yes.
And what did the defendant do before you went to the methadone clinic? What did the defendant do to Harmony after that accident?
He was yelling and screaming at her and punching her in the head.
How did she react to that?
She was crying.
You mentioned the methadone clinic. Was that Habit Opco?
Yes.
And what did you do at the methadone clinic that morning?
Got my dose of methadone, and Adam got his also.
And do you remember who went in first?
No, I don't remember who went first.
Where were you when he smelt that accident? Where was the vehicle when he smelt that accident?
In front of the methadone clinic.
Did you discuss going somewhere with him at any point that morning? Going to get food?
Yes. I asked to go to Burger King.
You asked to go to Burger King.
Yes.
And so at some point, did he begin driving the vehicle?
Yes.
Was that before or after he repeatedly struck Harmony?
After.
What was Harmony doing at that point when he started driving the vehicle?
She was crying. A lot.
She was crying a lot?
Yeah. And she was making a weird noise.
Was she saying anything?
No.
And Kayla, I want you to walk the jurors through in as much detail as you can what happened on your route from Habit Opco to that Burger King.
Adam was getting really angry from Harmony peeing in the car, and he repetitively kept punching her on the way to Burger King, and there were a couple red lights, and when we were at red lights, he would go over the driver's seat, like in between the passenger seat, and he was just punching her repetitively in the head.
And you've said there were several times where he punched her repetitively in the head.
Yes.
How many times did he hit her?
I can't count. I don't know.
Were you counting?
No, I wasn't.
How many lights did that car come to where he repetitively struck her?
At least 2 or 3.
Between Habit Opco and the Burger King, did the defendant say anything to Harmony?
I told her to shut the fuck up. Stop crying.
He said she was making a weird noise.
Yes.
Can you describe it?
It was like, I can't even describe it. It was like a moaning kind of noise, but crying. It was just weird. I can't explain it.
Did you try to help Harmony while he was striking her?
Yes.
Tell the jurors what you did to try to help.
I put my arm up and said to stop, but he looked at me and he gave me this look that was like evil. It's his crazy eyes. I didn't like it, and I couldn't stop him from hitting her, because the look that he gave me was scary. I was scared.
What were you feeling when he looked at you like that?
Like he was either gonna hit me or just, I don't know. It was weird. And that was like one of the first times that I've seen him look at me like that.
Was it the last time you saw him look at you like that?
No.
Okay, and we'll talk about that more. But I want to focus on this drive. You said that Harmony's crying. She's making this weird noise.
Yeah.
Where was she in the vehicle?
She was behind the passenger seat.
And who was in front of her in that car?
I was.
You described the defendant almost coming over the seat.
Yes.
Was he still driving at that point?
Some, like, kind of. Like, between the red lights, and it definitely at the red lights. I remember that.
How was he striking her?
By punching her in the head.
Where were your other two children at that time?
In the back seat.
And what were they doing?
They had no idea what was going on.
How old were they?
Seamus was about 2.5, and Declan was 11 months old.
Did you look back at Harmony at any point?
No,
Why not?
because I was scared.
What were you scared of?
If Adam was going to say something, or if he hurt her really bad, it was going to look really bad.
You were scared of what Harmony would look like? That attempt to intervene, were you successful in that?
No.
Did he stop after that?
Shortly after that,
Shortly after that. Did he say anything to you when he stopped?
he said he thinks that he really hurt her. And he felt something.
He said that he thinks he really hurt her. Where was the vehicle at that point?
At Burger King?
At the Burger King?
Yes.
And what did the defendant do after he stopped hitting Harmony, after he said, I think I really hurt her?
Nothing.
Did you order food from Burger King?
Yes.
So instead of kind of getting help for this total disaster, Adam decides he knows exactly what to do. He pulls out a duffel bag from his trunk and stuffs Harmony into it, and the four of them walk back to that apartment complex where their dealer gives them a car to use. He would end up just letting his own car get towed and never recover it. So while they were living in this new car, they would keep the duffel bag in the boot of the car and then leave it outside when they were parked for longer periods of time and felt like it was safe to do so they could slow the decomposition process. Then they would move in briefly with Kayla's mother, and Adam would purchase a red cooler to put the duffel bag in and then store it under their porch. And then he got a little braver and just started storing it in the common hallways of the house. Then they would find help and get themselves to a place in a shelter. And this is when Adam would decide to store the duffel bag with the little Harmony's remains in it in the ceiling, like where you can push up on the ceiling vent and then kind of store things that aren't too heavy. Yeah, he did that. And yeah, it started to smell, and yeah, people started to complain, and the complaints got so bad that people came into the apartment to check on it and concluded that an animal must have died in there somewhere. On January 8th of 2020, there would be a call about the family, and this would be the first time that Adam would say that Harmony had gone back to live with her mother. DCYF would leave Crystal a message and ask her for the new address and to verify this, but neither party would follow up from there, so it just stayed there. That same month, Adam would get a job at Portland Pie Company, and he would start bringing the duffel bag there and store it in the freezer with the food. In February of that year, Kayla would become pregnant with their third child, and by the end of that month, they would move into another apartment. This time, Adam attempted to cram the duffel bag into their fridge, but by now he was getting tired of having to improvise with his daughter's remains. He decided he needed to make them disappear permanently. So he decided to try and dissolve little Harmony in his bathtub. He got some lime and was trying to liquefy her and wash her down the drain. And Kayla would walk in on this and describe what she saw as just skin, bones, and fluid left, but she could still tell that it was Harmony. Can you even imagine? So after that, Adam would get a friend to help him rent a U-Haul. And on March 7th of 2020, no one knows where he drove it and disposed of the rest of her remains, but he got back about 4 hours later and would tell Kayla that it was done. We only know what happened to Harmony because Kayla cracked, as we just saw, and we'll get to that. But for the rest of 2020, nothing would really happen, and things would start to pick up again in 2021 because that March, Kayla would leave Adam saying he physically assaulted her, and it wasn't the first time. And she took their 3 kids with her. Then, towards the end of June, Crystal would post on TikTok sort of ranting about her situation and how her ex wasn't letting her see or even talk to their daughter. And one of her friends watching it got that sort of spidey sense that something just really was not right. And that September, her friend would contact DCYF and ask them what was going on and sort of to explain the situation to them, hoping that she could help Crystal figure out what to do next. She explained that her friend hadn't been allowed to see or speak to her daughter since that FaceTime on Easter. They would learn that Harmony had never been enrolled in school and attempted to follow up with Adam and Kayla, where at this point it seemed like the two were attempting to avoid them, because they were. And that November, Crystal would file a missing persons report with the Manchester PD, and they and DCYF would admit that they had no idea where Harmony was or how to locate her. So on December 31st of 2021, after finding Adam in his car and he tells them she's with Crystal, they issue a missing persons report, with her last known sighting being in 2019. Less than a week later, on January 6th, they would arrest Adam and charge him with second-degree felony assault for the black eye that he gave Harmony. And I would love to say better late than never, but in this case, if they had just done their job and taken Harmony away from her assailant, she would still be alive today, wouldn't she? So at least they had that major fuck up to work with and bring Adam in with. So he was charged with that because, as we've gone over at this point, he went through those extraordinary lengths to make sure that Harmony was never found. And he also got charges for interfering with custody and endangering the welfare of a child. And since Adam was just sticking with his guns of no body, no problem, they kind of leaned in on Kayla. So that January, they were able to bring her in as well. On January 10th, they brought her in for welfare fraud because, by her own admission, she had not seen Harmony since 2019, but she was still collecting benefits for her. Whoops. So she would backpedal and try and say that she forgot to take her off, which, okay, in a normal case where the kid is okay, maybe sometimes things happen, but you should definitely always be careful because welfare fraud. But they weren't going to let this one slide because she knew what happened to Harmony and they thought that they could crack her, and they were right. So they basically alluded that they knew they just needed enough information to put Adam away, and if she was willing to give them that information, she could have a deal. She would only be charged with welfare fraud, nothing to do with anything related to Harmony's death. Give them Adam, the killer, basically, and she took the deal and she told them what had happened to Harmony because they knew Kayla herself was abused by Adam and afraid of him, and they used that to crack her. That, the plea deal, and not only was she afraid for herself, watching Adam punch his daughter to death, she had 3 younger children with him, which I go back and forth with this one because she was definitely a victim as well, but in reality, she could have saved Harmony, and I'm going to leave that there because it really is both in this case. So in August of 2022, they would announce that Harmony was deceased and they would publicly charge Adam with her murder. When all was said and done, Kayla would end up getting 18 months in prison for perjury as promised, and Adam, on the other hand, would get second-degree murder as well as tampering with evidence, abuse of a corpse, as well as those assault charges they originally brought him in with. He would receive a 45-year charge for Harmony's murder, and he is serving 2 unrelated weapon charges consecutively. He will serve a minimum of 56 years. He would, of course, plead not guilty and not be any help at all in bringing any sort of closure to his daughter's case. On top of Kayla's testimony, which obviously was damning, his uncle Kevin would testify about the black eye and Adam's confession to knocking her around the house. Adam's own brother, Michael, would also testify against him, saying that his brother was an abusive person. On top of this, although they didn't have Harmony's body, they were able to find physical evidence to corroborate Kayla's story. There was a little pink toothbrush at one of the apartments Kayla told them about that had Harmony's DNA on it. And on top of that, remember the ceiling where Adam had stored Harmony in that shelter? Yeah, they were able to confirm Harmony's DNA on those ceiling tiles as well from seepage. So those 2 physical components of evidence really strengthened Kayla's testimony, and with those character references from his family, he was looking pretty fucking guilty, and to this day, he refuses to give Crystal the closure that she so desperately wants. Have a listen to some of her victim impact statement.
To the monster who murdered my baby. I did not kill my daughter, and I look forward to trial to refute those offensive claims. That is all you have said about my sweet daughter's life. Another lie, like all the other ones you've told. Like the cover story you told, that you dropped her off with me, knowing full well and good if you had, she would be thriving right now. Not beaten and stuffed in a CMC bag where you put her. She had a life worth living, unlike your own. And it bothered you to your core that she was nothing like you and everything like me. Beautiful inside and out, funny, smart, sassy, loving, and most of all, kind. She wasn't a coward like you, and I'll be forever grateful for that. You're a coward who has to be in control of everything and everyone around you, insecure and paranoid. The list goes on. She is none of those things. She lit up a room when she walked in. She made a mark wherever she went, and you couldn't stand it. She was an incredible big sister. She loved her brother, Jameson, to her core, and I know she loved your sons too, no matter the picture you tried to paint of her. December 7th will forever be the darkest day of my life. The night you beat her to death, I woke up in the middle of the night in agonizing pain, from my head to my toes, and I felt like I was dying, not knowing, in the most brutal way, a part of me was dying. Suffering in that back seat for 20 minutes while you and your wife fed yourselves and your other children, and you got high. 20 minutes that you could have used to save her life. Did she cry for me? Did she scream? Did she beg you to stop? I'll never know. Because like I said, you're too much of a coward to tell the truth and do one good thing for Harmony. You may have taken her physically from me, but she is always, always with me. And I will forever look for her until the end of my days. But I hope that every day and every night you're on this earth, you hear nothing but my baby's giggle. I doubt you ever heard it in this life. All she knew with you was misery and fear. I hope you hear her sweet voice telling you to stop hitting her over and over, or how she looked the very last time you saw her, broken and bruised. You were supposed to protect her, yet you did the opposite. Harmony wasn't anything to you but property that you could throw away when she was more of a burden to you than a meal ticket. Your hatred for me led you to act on your monstrous, controlling ways, and you took her because you just could not let her come home where she belongs. My love for Harmony outweighs my hatred for you, but they both gave me the strength to listen to my instincts and to help the police put you away forever. Harmony will live on through me, and you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything to stop it. I wish you nothing but pain and misery for the rest of your pathetic life, and with or without you, we will find my daughter. I always knew you weren't a good person, which is why I left you. I just never knew to what extent, but now I know you're just plain evil.
They would search for Harmony's remains in the Merrimack River, and there was a comment that Adam made about that. They heard him on a phone call saying it was a waste of their time and taxpayer money. So this was interpreted in two ways: that he knew exactly where she was and it wasn't there, or that his prosecution tried to spin it that they were wasting time because he didn't kill her, which, please. In May of 2024, Crystal would file a suit against the state of New Hampshire for failing to protect her daughter when they knew she was being abused by Adam, and she won. She was awarded $2.25 million, which is great, and I hope she's able to be blessed by it, but Attorney General John Formella would state the state agreed to these settlements to avoid prolonged litigation and support closure for the families. We recognize their profound loss, and I hope this brings some measure of peace. I really hope so as well. Okay, friends, that's gonna do it for today. I'm a little heated. We're gonna kick off our Sinful Summer series next week, and we're going to do it again this summer. We're gonna start with my personal least favorite, and that's lust, or the one that seems to burn me the most, anyways, that burning. We're going to take it to the worst of the places as well, so viewer discretion is advised. And until then, stay safe out there. Bye.